Hey, Algebra 2, this is Miss Bagwell. I, of course, am home with the flu, and so I couldn't be there to teach you today, but hopefully Mr. Yeager taught you how to do this 6.3 solve by factoring. This is your practice, though, and so I thought I'd make a video working out some of these problems in case you had questions. You should have the key already, and so you can check against the key, but I'm just real quick going to go through several of these problems, and then if you have more questions, just let me know and I'll make another video if I need to. So remember, as we're solving by factoring, if it's not already factored, you'd factor it, but on this one it's already factored. And then you just set each part equal to 0 and solve that out. So we get m equals -5 and m equals -1, and so those are our two solutions. If you want, you can write them in those squiggly brackets like we talked about the other day. Either answer would be fine. So same thing on number 3. K equals 0 and k plus 4 equals 0. So here we get k equals -4. There we go. So then when we get to problems like number 5, it's not factored yet, and so we've got to factor it. And so the way we're going to do that, this one is just a GCF. Okay, so we always look for that GCF first. On this one, we can pull out a p to the front. From the first term, if we do p squared divided by p, that just leaves us with a p. And then minus, if we divide the 7p by p, we get 7 equals 0. So this is going to be p equals 0 and p minus 7 equals 0. Add the 7 to each side, and p equals 7. Okay, I'm sorry, right here I wrote p equals 7. It should be p equals 0. Jumping ahead in my brain. So this p you just bring down, set it equal to 0. This p minus 7, set it equal to 0. You solve it out, you get 7. So sorry about that. Okay, so that's all from that page. And so then the next page of the practice, number 9. To factor this one, of course, always look for a GCF first. I don't really see a GCF that would come out of this. So to factor this one, it's going to be that blank times blank and blank plus blank. So we want two numbers that multiply to give us 7 and add to 8. That'd just be 7 and 1. So this is going to factor into r plus 7 and r plus 1 equals 0. So solving this out, and you maybe can do a little shorthand by now, this would end up being -7 once you solve it out, and -1. Okay. All right, number 13. There's not a GCF that can come out of this one, but this is a perfect square, or I should say a difference of squares. Okay, so this one factors into n minus 5 and n plus 5. And, of course, equals 0. So then when you solve that out, you get n equals 5 and n equals -5. Okay. All right, next one, number 17. Okay, so we've got some bigger numbers here, and we've got this coefficient. So that definitely makes me think that there might be a GCF. So 15 and 19, though, there's not even anything out of those two that we could pull out. So this is one of those where we have to multiply that 15 times the -8. So I'm looking for those two numbers that multiply to give me that and add to give me 19. Okay, so let's see, 15 times -8. Let me grab a calculator real quick. You probably already have your calculator in front of you, so maybe you already have it multiplied out. But hang on just a sec, sorry. All right, so 15 times -8 should give us a -120. Okay, so I need those two numbers that are going to give me 19. So since this is such a big number, it may be a little more difficult to find. Initially, I'm thinking like 6 and 20. but that wouldn't work to give us 19. So it might just be helpful to make a little chart here. So 1 times 120, that'd be 2 times 60, 3 times 40, let's see, 4 times 30, 5 times, let's see, and 24. And let's see, I could do 24 minus 5, and that would give me 19. Let's see if that'll work. And that does work to give me a negative 120 as well as a 19. So those are going to be my two numbers. So remember, when you do these problems where you start by multiplying here, the next thing that we do after we get those numbers is we break up that 19 into the 24 and the negative 5. So down here I'm going to bring down and write 5n squared plus 24n minus 5n minus 8 equals 0. And from here, we're just going to factor by grouping. Remember that negative needs to go inside the parentheses and just put a plus sign in between. So this is going to be, I can take out a 3n. That leaves me with 5n plus 8. Here I'm just going to take out a negative 1, and that leaves me with 5n plus 8. So this becomes 3n minus 1, 5n plus 8. And so solving this out, 3n minus 1 equals 0. This would be 3n equals 1. And then divide by 3, we get n equals 1/3. Sorry that that's so small, guys. And then here we would have 5n equals negative 8. Because I already subtracted the 8. Sorry, I kind of skipped a step there. And then n is negative 8 over 5. There we go. Okay, so make sure you show your work on this, guys. Even on the test, if you get one that's multiple choice, if you don't get the final answer correct, but you've got some work showing me how you got there, then you have the potential to get some partial credit. So even on a multiple choice question, show your work so that I can try to give you some partial credit if you make a mistake. Okay, number 19, same process, okay? We're looking for a GCF, but there's not one. So that means I've got to multiply that 7 times that negative 12. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me whatever 7 times 12 is, specifically 7 times negative 12. So that'd be a negative 84. And then I want them to add to give me a negative 8, okay? So let's see, I'm thinking maybe 14 and 6. Let's see if that'll work. So 14, if I do a negative 14 plus 6, that would give me negative 8. And negative 14 times 6 would give me negative 84. So remember, I'm breaking up that negative 8n. So this is going to be 7n squared minus 14n plus 6n minus 12 equals 0. And I'm grouping. Take out a 7n from the top part, and that's n minus 2, plus take out a 6 from the second half, and that also leaves us with n minus 2. So this factors into 7n plus 6 and n minus 2. And then solving that out, 7n plus 6 equals 0. This will be 7n equals negative 6. So n equals negative 6 over 7. Here, n minus 2 equals 0. So n equals 2. And there we go. Okay. All right, just a couple more. I thought y'all might want some examples from this writing the equation given the solutions. I feel like this might actually be the hardest part of what we've learned in this unit. So you're kind of working backwards from what we just did on everything before this. So like if we look here at number 9, we got this final answer and we want to work backwards up to this original equation. So on number 21, our final answer here is x equals 2 and x equals 3. We want to work the opposite direction to that equation. So that means I need to get each of these things to equal 0. So if I've got x equals 2, to get it to be 0, I'm going to have to subtract 2 from each side. So now on the left side, I've got x minus 2, and that of course cancels to give me 0. And then x equals 3, I'm subtracting 3 from each side. So this gives me x minus 3 equals 0. Once I'm at this point where they each equal 0, now I multiply them together. So x minus 2 and x minus 3, multiplying those, x times x gives me x squared minus 3x. Let's see, let me show you what I'm doing here. Sorry, x times x times negative 3, now minus 2x and plus 6. And then just combine together those middle terms. X squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay. All right, number 23. You've already got x equals 0, so that one's good. Where you've got the x equals negative 1, we'd have to add a 1 to each side. So we'd end up with x plus 1 equals 0. And now just multiply those together. X times x plus 1. That would give us x squared plus x. So we're just distributing that x out. And that's it. All right, and then number 27. So on this one, you've got these fractions, okay? Negative 1/3 and 3/4. Remember, your first step here is multiply the denominator, okay? So here I'm going to multiply by 3. That cancels the denominator. Now I have 3x equals negative 1. Then my next step is to add 1 to each side, trying to get it to be 0 over here. So this will be 3x plus 1. Over here, multiply by 4. So I get 4x equals 3. I need to subtract that 3 over so that that's 0. So this will be 4x minus 3 equals 0. And now I just want to multiply these two together. And so multiplying that out or distributing that out, that'd be 12x squared minus 9x. And then distributing the 1 would be plus 4x and minus 3. So we get 12x squared minus 5x minus 3. And that's our final answer, okay? All right, so there's some review from the homework. I also have the Unit 6 review, test review, and so I'll try to go through and just do a couple examples from that. If you have questions that you specifically want to see worked out from the test review, please just send me a message and I'll work them out and post them on Schoology so that way you can check there. You will have your test on Friday, and so make sure that you're ready for that and that you send me any questions that you have before then. Hope y'all have a great day, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, guys.